Hey everyone, welcome back. It's going to be a quick video about how I use CSS Grid to reproduce the Verge article layout and why I think in general CSS Grid is ideal for blog post layout. At the end of the video I will also share with you a couple of resources that I found that is quite useful if we want to learn more about CSS Grid. CSS Grid is a display property in CSS that is extremely useful to create CSS layout. A lot of developers actually, I've heard about it for a long time, but I've not used it so far just because of the lack of support of browsers and especially Internet Explorer. But as Internet Explorer is thankfully, going away, using CSS Grid makes a lot of sense now. And I'm hoping that this video will show you, or just say convince you that you should definitely try it. What I'm going to show you now is a reproduction of CSS layout that I did a couple of years ago. So The Verge might have updated their websites and it's not exactly the same anymore. What I think is really interesting about The Verge is that they're often using what I would call breaks in their article layout. And what I mean by breaks is that it's not just a block of text. Sometimes you will see obviously images, and what they're using too is quotes. And often the quotes are not exactly, at least on desktop, they're not just part of the text. They can be, like I did here, a little bit on the left or a little bit on the right. And so it feels like the article and the blog post is more breathable and more readable. And that's something that you can do easily with CSS Grid. One other thing you can do easily is making images full width. And one thing that you will see is that images often on a medium, actually it's kind of the same way. You can put images either full width or medium size width, I would say, or just the width of the text. So with CSS Grid, exactly how we're going to do it. Let's take a look at the code. So just a quick note about the code. So like I said, it was done quite a long time ago. I took a look before and tried to modify it a bit to demonstrate benefits of CSS Grid. But it was done when I was really into Pug and Stylus. And Pug is a templating language that compiles to HTML. Stylus is a CSS preprocessor. And even if you have not used it, I mean, just looking at it, you should be able to understand the code quite easily. It's almost similar to HTML CSS. You can see here, I'm using article display grid. What's interesting is that the template column is in auto for the borders, and it's actually a fixed width. So, and it's a 7-column layout. So that's how it looks like if you're using the Chrome DevTools. And what you see on the left and on the right is always going to be expanding. So the text is always going to be the same size, at least on desktop. It's going to be different on mobile and tablets. And what you have, the border on close to, and the two columns, the column number 2, 3, and 5 and 6, are basically used for those breaks elements, those elements that don't exactly fit, like quotes that would be a little bit on the left, a little bit on the right. And because you have separated all those, because you have created all those columns, it's extremely easy to position them. One thing to note is that I'm creating 7 columns also on tablet and on mobile, even if it's not necessary. The reason is that if it has the same number of columns for the three media queries that I want, the 3 different sizes that I'm looking to create, and just say special design for, I can just use one property to place every default element. And the default is to place every text, images, bold text or whatever, everything is going to be in the fourth column. And then I can just override, for example, the image and say for the image, I want it to be from the first to the last column. So it's going to take the full width. For the quote, it's a bit different. For the quote, I can say that I want it to be from the third column to the fifth column. So it's a bit different. You have like more room, and on tablet, I can just change it if I want to. So I can specify here that I want it to be a little bit different on desktop and on tablet and mobile. I want it to be exactly like the text, just center with the text, which is exactly like this. Okay, that's been it. Really a quick demonstration of what you can do with CSS Grid if you want to basically position elements out of the natural flow of the text. It's extremely useful for that. Now let me just show you 3 different resources to kind of learn more about CSS Grid. The first resources I want to show you is MDN Web Docs for Grid. It's always going to be, I think, the first resource that I will always recommend if you want to learn anything really on the web. MDN is extremely great for that. The Mozilla Developer Network website always has good documentation, so just take a look at this. One thing that is extremely useful too is CSS tricks. CSS Grid has actually a really great guide for CSS Grid that will show you the properties for the parents and also the properties for the children. The fact that it's separated between the two makes it kind of easy to understand how to place the different properties, and it's extremely useful, especially when you get started. The second one, it's a generator. Yes, a generator is kind of useful sometimes, and one thing that I like about this generator is the fact that you have support for legacy grid spec that is used for Internet Explorer 10 and Explorer 11. Okay, that's been it for me. If you like this video, you can always hit the like button, subscribe if you want more content like this. You can also follow me on Medium and GitHub. And yes, I said Medium and GitHub. I don't have Snapchat, and I'm not using Instagram, so yeah, I guess it's gonna be Medium and GitHub for me. So yeah, thank you for watching, and until next time.